Affiliate coming at you with another awesome live stream, and this live stream is going to be an update for my Ruby Kurosawa deck profile for Weiss Schwarz. Now that one of my friends was able to pass me or donate me very gratefully. I'm very grateful for that. Some of the last few cards I needed to finish the deck. As well as that, also do a little bit of our usual live stream discussion. So I'm going to do all the discussion stuff out of the way first. So if you guys want to leave a comment or anything, if you do so on the live chat, it should hopefully show up on screen while I'm filming, so I should be able to answer that. So answering one thing that came up last week, I'm not sure if he's going to end up watching, but basically he asked me if I'll be doing any giveaways. At this stage, no. I will be trying to do a giveaway if we reach 500 subs. So if we reach 500 subs by the end of the year, I will do a giveaway maybe for a Yu-Gi-Oh! Megatin, but that's on you guys. Feel free to like and subscribe. Obviously, if we get to 500 by the end of the year, I will do a Megatin giveaway. So anyway, guys, that's a bit... So now we're going to get into the deck profile, so I don't want to spend too much time talking about this kind of stuff, so we'll move Kurumi back here. This is a live stream, of course. Someone asked me in one of my other videos I did where Kurumi was. Obviously, like I said, she's not going to show up in the live stream, so she's going to be sitting here at the back watching us do the deck profile. So if you haven't checked out the last Ruby deck profile, it was from a few months ago, I do recommend it because... it is the best deck you can build for Ruby in English at the moment, I do believe, if you want to build pure Ruby. This new profile does run cards from the second, the Volume 2, which came out in Japanese a few months ago, or a month or two ago. It took me a while to get everything, but now that we have it, and I do have a build I'm pretty happy with, we can actually get into it. So again, guys, this deck is not buildable in English, and it does run some cards that we only have in Jap. So without any further ado, guys, let's get into it. So first off, guys, we have 2 copies of Ruby Kurosawa. Very interested. So this card is actually pretty good for a common. If she's in your front row center slot, she gains 1/5 power, 2/5 power, and a level. So there's lots of really cool combos you can use with this, and there's a cool back row card. So normally, in terms of having loner powers, they need to be like, you need to have like a few characters, like 1 or less other characters, or 2 or less stock. This card's actually pretty good. So. And there's a card in the deck also that gives center Ruby or music characters in front of 500 power. So if you open up with this and this and the assist back row card, you can just have a 4/5 level 1 on your opponent's turn. Obviously, you do have to play her in center, and a lot of cards do get power if they're in center. But this card is still pretty good to run it too, because 4K is pretty decent with no drawbacks other than having to be in the front row center to be good. It's pretty hard to beat over as well. 4K, pretty consistent. And it's on both players' turns as well. So a lot of cards get 4K or greater than 4K on your turn when you play them. But yeah, this card keeps it as long as it's in the center. And like I said, if you have the back row card, it gets to 4/5. So pretty cool card. Next up, guys, 3 copies of Our Brilliance Ruby. Now, I only have 2 because I still need to track down the other one, but you can just play one of this PR instead if you do have it, but obviously the PR is a bit harder to get than the rares. So basically the rare is she can't side attack, and when she's placed from hand to stage, she gains 1/5 power, so she's going to jump to 4/5. She can't side, and then of course the PR, I can't remember the TR's name off the top of my head. Basically when it's played from hand to stage, it gets plus 1/5, so obviously you'll be playing this. If you're just playing the English, you don't have access to this rare, but obviously the rare is better because it can't side, but I mean, you get that 500 extra power, and at level 0, you're probably just going to want to ram anyway, so pretty straightforward there. Moving on, now we have 3 copies of our Brainstormer. Of course, Ruby still doesn't have I mean, at least she has a Brainstormer, I think. Now we're in set 3, I think most of the characters have a Brainstormer. I didn't really look into others. I know Yoshiko didn't have one, and now she does. This is like the second Brainstormer from the first set, so it's kind of like the worst one. So basically it is Tokyo Coordinate Ruby. So basically it is a search ditch Brainstormer, so it is spammable. It's not great because it's really the only one of the 2 main ways Ruby has to mill her own deck. And I have hit 4 climaxes on this before, and I've had to search for ditch 4. But being able to brainstorm spam is pretty good. Unfortunately, Ruby doesn't make, the new build I have for Ruby doesn't build as much stock as the old one, because I did have to remove the stock soul, which I'll explain when we get to that later. Her other effect works so much better with some of the new cards that are in her deck. Basically, if you use an activated build, you get to pump 500 power, so play 3 just for consistency. You're not always going to use it, but it's better to have 3 and just in case you want to get it if you can. Next up, guys, 3 copies of Yohane's Little Demon Ruby. Obviously, this has a much longer name, but I couldn't be bothered remembering the whole full name of it. It's a pay 1, drop 1 deck search. I play 3 copies because it's basically the only consistent way that Ruby has to get the card you want from your deck. Pretty much guaranteed, except if it's not in your deck. I mean, the Brainstormer could whiff, and then you'll have to search Ditch. I mean, this is pay 1, drop 1 deck search. You don't run the risk of not hitting a climax and wasting stock. And again, in this deck, Ruby doesn't build that much stock. She can build hand, but ultimately you run the risk of being forced to ditch cards that you need in your hand. But I think it's better to have this, rely on this more than the Brainstormer. And again, the Akatsuki is good, but it's only top 4. Next up, guys, is the back row card I was telling you about that works really well with our very interested Ruby. This is Ruby Gathering Courage, so she gives 500 power in front, and you can rest her to give one of your other characters 1000 power, which is pretty good. You can bump your center character to 4/5 if you're going first, and then on your opponent's turn, and then on the next turn, if you're going second, you drop that in the center. You can drop this behind. You can bump it to 5/5 if you need to, which is pretty big for a level 0 as well. So this does replace the other grade 0 we were playing that has the climax combo with the stock soul, which you can still play if you want, but I'm not playing the stock soul, so this is obviously a better replacement for that card. Next up, guys, 2 copies of Chibi Ruby. I mean, this is totally up to you if you guys want to play this. This is a box topper PR from the extra booster, so it's not too hard to get. Its ability activates up to twice per turn, so when another character is placed from hand to stage, she gains a K. Pretty straightforward, so she can get to 4/5 if you play 2 other characters. Not too hard to do in Ruby, so yeah. Moving on to grade 1, guys. So not much has changed from the grade 1. I think there's only 1 new card we added. So first off, of course, we still keep Mijuku Dreamer Ruby. It is the only plus Ruby has in her entire deck. So basically, climax combo with Mijuku Dreamer plus 2 soul. On attack, check top. If it's a music character, add it to your hand. And then if she's reversed, check top card of your deck. If it's a music, pay 1, bounce her back to your hand. Hey, thank you so much for watching, dude. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoy the profile. So yeah, main plus engine for Ruby. Unfortunately, it's not great. I'd rather just have an on reverse search or on attack search, but like pay, guarantee search, because this card can whiff. Being able to bounce your hand is pretty decent because you can like refill your hand. And Ruby in theory should have a lot of hand because of this card. But ultimately she has so many cards in her deck and just with her that just force you to ditch. So your entire deck is so heavily reliant on this card. So you have to play 4 copies. It kind of contradicts her other main grade 1 that she had in the first set, obviously, which is the Koi ni Natari Aquarium. Sorry, I can't remember the full I'm really bad at pronouncing these names. Basically, Akatsuki on play, ditch a card, look up to top 4, add a music character to the hand, pretty straightforward. And then she has the really weird climax combo where she turns into a grade 2. Now, I was really iffy about wasn't sure if I actually wanted to remove the climax combo from my deck. Now, obviously, you would remove it for consistency purposes and just play 4 copies of her new climax and 4 copies of her grade 1 climax. But getting out the grade 2 at level 1 can actually give you so much advantage. It's definitely still worth running, and even if you don't pull it off, I mean, you can still play the grade 2 on its own, but you might as well play it. So it's up to you if you want to play the wind climax. I mean, playing 5 wind is pretty troll, which is what this deck is running. But yeah, it's up to you. You definitely have to play 4 copies of this because it's Ruby's only consistent mill. But like I said, you have to ditch. So, and it is at level 1, but I mean, it's level 1 because you have the change combo, so... Moving on to our 2 new grade level 1 cards. So this is from the new set. So this is Brave New World. What a Brave New World. Now, this card is pretty funny. So this is a card that's designed to work in a Ruby Dia deck or a Ruby or either with Ruby or either with Dia or without Dia. Now, she has 3 effects. Her first effect gives the character in front 500, and then her other 2 effects rely on the fact of whether you control a Dia or not. Obviously, not having a Dia on the field is the better effect, and I can't remember what the Dia effect actually does. And for us, it's really not relevant because we don't have a Dia in the entire deck. So basically, you can rest her, pick one of your other characters, and it gains the effect on reverse, you get to salvage. So this is basically the only salvage Ruby has, And she does have some pretty decent, she does have a decent level 1 beta, and of course she has that level 2 beta that you can cheat out with the climax combo. So comboing this with that, this card with your level 2 or your level 1 beta is pretty decent, and you definitely want to run 2 copies of this. Was running 1, and then I'd find myself either like, triggering it or going it to waiting room and not being able to get it back. And given its ability to salvage basically for free, all you have to do is reverse, is very, very good, and you just have to rest it because nothing really else in the Ruby deck really rests, and because it's an activated ability as well, if you have the Brainstormer, you can pump extra power, and it does give the 500 cross turn, so pretty cool. Next up, guys, is Precious Friends Ruby Kurosawa, obviously. We've played this card since the beginning of the deck. I played it from set 1, played it hidden when they got the EB, and I'm still playing it here in set 2 because she still doesn't have a decent level 1 beta. So she is a 1/1 that has the ability, basically, in your turn, she gets plus 3k. So she's an 8k beta in your turn, and she also has Clock on Core. So combos really well with the Brave New World, obviously, and of course your Ruby Gathering Courage, as well as your Brainstormer, being able to pump this thing up massive in your turn. Pretty much reverse your opponent's thing and then add it back to your hand. And if they kill it in their turn, obviously you can just Clock on Core it. Or if you have enough resources in hand, you don't really need it. It does cost you 1 stock, but a 1/1 for a Clock on Core that's 8k in your turn is pretty worth it in my opinion. And it's the best beta Ruby has at level 1 without losing too much resource, so you definitely want to play it. We still play 1 copy of the event known as Computer, or is this a computer, basically. Again, it's not technically a Ruby card. Ruby is there, and because we're playing 3 climax combos in the deck, being able to sack a character to search for a climax is incredibly helpful. So you might want to run 1. If you're not super anal about like having 100% Ruby, you could probably play this at 2. I run it at 1 just because being able to, if Ruby's done her job well, or the deck's worked perfectly, you'll have a ton of characters in your hand. You can just play 1, use this event, sack it, get whatever climax you need. So still run 1 copy of it, and I can justify at least running 1 because Ruby is basically on the card. Just a little shame that it went to Hanamaru, not Ruby, but what can you say? Our last 2 level 1 cards, guys, are 2 copies of the 1135 event, known as Beautiful Girl's Smile. Obviously, Ruby's Smile, because we don't like Hanamaru, we only like Ruby. It's a 3/5 counter, pretty straightforward, very good event counter as well, so you can always play it in your turn. If you need your Water Brave New World to reverse something, you can like give this to it, pump the character 3/5. She's going to get pretty much guarantee a reverse. Like if you give this to like your level, you can also give this to your Jumping Heart Ruby in your turn. I mean, it's going to be like, that card gets huge. And then you add this, and then you add your Brave New World. You add all these extra power boosts to the card. You're pretty much going to guarantee a reverse. So definitely worth running 2 of this card. It's not searchable, but I mean, 3/5 counter, 1135 counter is still pretty cool. Moving on to grade 2, guys, we have 2 copies of the Jumping Heart Ruby. It is iffy. I mean, it was her main card from the first set, and you still run it if you're playing the EB as well. So basically, if it's played from your hand, when it's played from hand to stage, if you have 4 or more other music characters, you can stock charge 1 card from 1 music character from your waiting room, which is pretty cool. So you basically get back 1 of the stock that you paid for it, and then when you swing, you get the other stock back. So technically, if you do the change combo, it's free. But you do lose a lot of hand for that. So and then of course, she gets 500 power for every other music character you have out. And this is the thing that makes her still worth running. If you have the Akatsuki in your waiting room, so the Aquarium Ruby, she gains 1000 power and cannot be the target of your opponent's abilities. So, and that's in both players' attack step, I believe. I'm not sure if it's attack step or both players' turns, but obviously this card is definitely still worth running. Even if you're not running the Win Climax combo, just playing it as the beta, level 2 beta, is pretty cool because, just being able to be hexproof, being massive, but getting this out at level 1, if you can achieve it, is pretty cool. But obviously the 2 level 1 Climax combos do kind of contradict each other, and 9 times out of 10, you're going to want to get off the level 1, the add combo, rather than playing this. But if you can play this, it is worth it, trust me. Next up, guys, 2 copies of her level 2 counter from the EB because it's insanely good. It is Aim for the Brilliance. So it is a 3k counter that when you play it, you force your opponent to mill a card from the top of their deck for every music character you have. So if you time this just right, you can basically force your opponent to either mill cards so they're going to trigger climaxes, or if they're about to refresh, you can like mill mill them and force them to like mill out climaxes, or if they've got a ton of climaxes in their stock and stuff. Like, there's lots of good advantages to playing this card. I mean, you could probably play it at 1. I like playing it at 2 because it is a 3k counter, and Ruby doesn't have too much great waiting room recursion, and she only really has one way to salvage. And this is a really good way to power up your lower level cards, or your particularly your grade 3 or your grade 2 Jumping Heart, just to keep them alive for a turn. Because like I said, this deck doesn't make too much stock now, so you want to try and keep your characters around for as much as possible. Our last level 2 card is an event called Things Learned from Big Sister, and it is freaking adorable. And we have Lolly Ruby and Lolly Dyer. So basically, when it search 2, ditch 1, not great, but again, it's another way to search out the cards you need for a pretty like small cost. So it's basically pay 1, ditch 1, search 2. Pretty cool, easy ways to get fodder for your other event, to search your climax, or just to get 2 of your grade 3s to your hand. Pretty straightforward. Definitely worth running at 1. Be nicer if it was salvage, but I mean, because Ruby doesn't have much search anyway, this is still very nice. You only play 1 because it is costly in Ruby, because she doesn't make too much stock, like I've been saying. Hand, if she does well, the ditching 1 card from hand isn't too much of an issue. Moving on to grade 3, guys, we have 4 copies of her new grade 3. Finally, after 3 sets, Ruby has a good finisher. So this is Mirai no Bokura wa Shiteru yo. Ruby, apologies if I butchered that song name. This card is probably easily Ruby's best grade 3 that she's got. She's got 3 so far, and you can, thankfully, unlike Yoshiko, you can actually run all of her grade 3s in her deck if you really want to. So this one is when it comes to play, you get to draw up to 1 card from the top of your deck, and she gets plus 2k power. And then she has a climax combo with Abstract Contract, or whatever it's called, the new win climax. I'm not sure the exact name of it. So you play 1, you choose one of your characters, and it gets 2k power, and then on cancel, burn 1. So it does say choose one of your characters, so you can give it to herself, which is really good, and it combos pretty well with the Musashi Yoshiko from the last set. The only issues with this is that in order to get the heal off the Yoshiko, you do need the climax, but I mean, who cares about healing? But, I mean, I feel like the gimmick of that Yoshiko was the fact that it could heal. So, her other ability is, yeah, that's basically all she does. She gives Cancel Burn, Cancel Burn, it's Cancel Burn 2, sorry. Cancel Burn 2 to something if your opponent cancels, and you have to pay 1 to do it. So you want to try and keep this around for as much as possible. She doesn't heal. She does draw your cards, so she can theoretically dig for the climax. And the draw, of course, is optional, and you don't have to ditch, so really cool effects, and she is, of course, you can search her out and salvage her out, but that's why we play all the counters, because we need to keep this thing alive. So it's much easier to keep this thing alive with 1 stock with a counter, rather than losing it and then trying to pay all the stock to search it and play it again. So unfortunately, downside, it is reliant on the climax combo, so if you don't get the climax, she's basically a dead card in your hand, because she doesn't heal, but she does draw your card. And finally, our last characters, guys, are 3 copies of Mirai Ticket Ruby Kurosawa. Obviously, guys, Ruby's healer, it's very underpowered. This card should never have been a double R. They could have given her something. This should easily have been a single rare. So on play, you heal the top card of your deck, and when she swings, she pumps 500 power to a chosen character, equal to the number of music characters you control. So if you go full field, she's going to pump 2/5. Yeah, I mean, this easily could have been a rare, or the 2/5 should have been cross turn. Only play 3, because 9 times out of 10, you actually want to go straight for the burn combo if you have it. Otherwise, this is just here to heal you and pump some power on your turn and keep things alive. Or try and ram over your opponent's stuff so they can't ram into you. But hopefully, they do give her a better healer that does something. But for now, this card is fine. Also, you guys can still play 1 copy of the grade 3 from the first set, just as a guaranteed cancel ping 1, and she can give soul, but like I feel like the give soul is really costly for a deck that doesn't make too much stock as it is, so I did actually remove that. She may go back in the deck, but at this stage, I don't really have any space for her in the deck, and I'm happy with how the deck plays. So moving on to the climaxes. Now, this is where things get a little bit weird. I am playing a climax spread of 3-3-2. I know in my previous video, previous profile, I was playing 4-2-2. But I mean, we have two very important climax combos now, not just one, so I had to play 3-3-2. So first off, guys, we have 3 copies of Mijuku Dreamer, the +2 soul that combos with our level 1, obviously, which allows us to add cards. It is a +2 soul, so we can soul rush with this deck. And there's a lot. The thing is, there's a lot. The one thing I don't like about this being a +2 soul is there are so many 2 soul characters that you play in the Ruby deck that you're going to be overswinging a lot. And that's one of the main reasons why I actually want to play this at 3, because I don't want to trigger too much soul and overswing like crazy. But you could play it at 4 if you really wanted to, just for consistency's sake. Our next 3 of, obviously, is her new climax combo with her grade 3. So, it is a wind trigger, so wind trigger is very useful and pretty troll. It's a shame that it's not a burn trigger. I feel like it would have been maybe a bit too broken if it was a burn trigger, but then Yoshiko's new climax is a burn trigger, so Yoshiko has burn and wind, but it would have been nice to have burn, because then you could play the old climax, her climax combo from the first set, and then you'd have wind and burn in your deck at the same time, as well as +2 soul. But that could be seen potentially as pretty busted, but for a waifu deck, but you know, you don't know, you never know. So having wind trigger is really, really nice. For a climax combo that combos with Ruby, I don't like that Ruby's not really in the center of this card, but I'm not sure if it combos with Hanamaru. I'm pretty sure it doesn't combo with Yoshiko. I could be wrong there, but I know that her level 1 combos with a shot trigger, so that's, and I think it's the same, and it's the same song, so, based on the outfit, so that's pretty weird. And then finally, of course, School Idol Project, 2 copies of this, because it's adorable, and it is your level 1 combo. It is the other level 1 combo you have to cheat out the grade 2. So she did also get a new climax combo in the second set. I think everyone got 2 climax combos or something, I'm not exactly sure. I remember reading it at one point, but I remember it not being very good, so I kind of can't remember what it does. Obviously, if it was good, I'd be running it. But anyway, guys, that is it for the deck profile. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you guys would like to see this deck used in some videos, I'll try and find some other Sunshine Waifu decks to go up against, or if maybe you'd like to see Ruby take on some of the OG Love Life girls, if you'd like to see that, leave me a comment below. If you haven't checked out the original deck profile, I do recommend it. We also have some Weiss Schwarz games up on the channel. We have Nico vs. Kodari and Nico vs. Rin up on the channel, and hopefully very soon I'll be able to get around to filming a new waifu showdown, potentially Nico vs. Umi, Nico vs. Honoka, Nico vs. We had Nozomi at one point. I think we lost the file at one point, but yeah, but Nico vs. Nozomi, we can film it. It's not very fun, because obviously if you know anything about Weiss Schwarz, or particularly the Love Life waifu decks in Weiss Schwarz, you'll know that Nozomi deck is pretty average. But anyway, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you enjoy my deck. If you like it, please remember to leave a thumbs up as well. Hit the bell button when you subscribe, and stay tuned for my next Weiss video, which should be on my Madoka stuff, which should be coming around the end. I think it comes out at the end of June, so we should be having another Weiss video up in July in terms of openings, if we haven't already done another game by that. Other than that, there will be a new Yu-Gi-Oh! Video coming up this week. We will be doing a archetype analysis on the vampires, which should be pretty cool. Once a bunch of my other vampire stuff arrives, we'll be able to do that for you guys. I am working on a vampire deck profile as well, which I hope you guys will enjoy. I'm trying to make a pure one. I'm going to try and make 2 vampire profiles. I'm going to try and make a pure one and then a non-pure one with it runs a lot of other zombie stuff as well, so we'll be able to do that for you guys. I'm going to try and film some Yu-Gi-Oh! Games too if you guys want to see that. I think one of my friends really wants to film Element Sabers versus Harpies, so I can do that for you guys. And I'll also be doing an updated Harpy profile soon for you guys as well. So lots of videos to look forward to. Until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know a bunch of you are in the middle of exam period and it is very late, but I do appreciate it. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you for my next stream.